Alright, so today we're going to talk about Drake. Let's start with the album, Nothing Was the Same. Where do you guys think this puts him in hip-hop today? Do you think he's now amongst the elite, or is he still fighting with the new guys? What do you think, Hugh?
I think the album isn't a hip-hop album. He's singing, and I love Drake, but I want him to make a rap album. I feel like he hasn't made a rap album yet. Because sometimes when he hits on rapping, it's good, but then the other songs, it's like he's just singing. And that's still good, and it's expanding the culture, but I want a rap album from Drake.
You want strictly, like, straight, like, rap only, no songs?
Yeah, I want Worst Behavior.
Worst Behavior is one of my favorites in the album.
That's it.
That's one of the strongest songs, and I think his strong suit is mixing up the styles, and I think that's why he's become so popular in main culture, and why he's been as successful as he's been. But I think there's a lot more to this album. Like, he definitely has rapped more on this album than any of the others. I mean, he's, by like strict rap, like, there's been a lot of songs where he kind of goes back and forth, but I feel like on this album it was mostly like, I'm just gonna rap, or I'm just gonna sing, with the exception of one or two where he kind of, like, Furthest Thing is like a nice hybrid, I think. And where he's got, that first half of the record is like very slow, very melodic, and then that Jake 1 beat comes in the second half, and you're like, your head is like, this is like pure hip hop in its glory.
I think the only thing that doesn't really make it a rap album necessarily is kind of like his beat selection. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of these songs, like, there might be like a slow down kind of vibe, but he's rapping on them, and he's making points, and his flow's on point. But you know, it's just kind of like on a slower beat, and that's something that I don't think like our culture, our hip hop culture is really used to seeing. You know what I mean? Like someone consistently getting on like a slow melody kind of like flow and just like killing it. You know, so like they're like, oh, it's not rap. Like it's rap. It's just like it's a different like element. He really kind of brought back to what hip hop and rap is like culturally based off of. I think his beat selection. I think that's what's really like the issue of like him, whether he's like a rapper or a singer, is just like.
I totally disagree. I think it's bullshit. Hopefully we can bleep that out. I feel like every rapper has an album where all they're doing is, it's like being in the gym. All they're doing is rapping. You know, Jay-Z had, even this last Jay-Z album, he's rapping. The Blueprint 1, he's just rapping. Kendrick with his first album coming out the gate, he's hitting you like, I can really rap. And Drake, he puts together great albums. And the thing about Drake, he can rap better than 90% of the rappers that are out right now. 90% of the rappers, but I want 4 songs. You know, if he's not gonna give me a whole album, if him and 40 aren't gonna give me a whole album, can I get 4 to 5 songs with 3 verses of Drake rapping? No singing, and I think he's a good singer. I like singing to him. He reminds me of Craig David. But yeah, I just want 4 songs with 3 verses of him rapping.
Yeah. It's not as far left. Like, this is still Drake in his element doing what he does well, and like, this is what's made him so successful. He raps, he sings, and he can make music people can relate to, and that's the most important part.
That's the way hip hop is. There's different facets, and there's different fans and different niches that you can fit yourself into. You don't have to, it's not like one, it's not black or white, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think that, also to touch on what you said about like males and their like opinion on Drake and how his whole like persona is, I think guys just have that dominant nature where they don't want to see the top guy really doing well, but when he is doing well, they want to be next to him, you know?
Right,
exactly. They want to still bump him, but they're not going to admit that they still bump him.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, that's just dominant male nature, you know?
Well, I have no shame, man. I was driving down JFK Boulevard, bumping Furthest Thing, and it's got like the funniest looking dude next to him. It's like mobbing on my nose, like, like that's my shit. So another interesting point, I mean, there's been this beef with Kendrick. And I think Drake and Kendrick are like the two, well, J. Cole as well, are like the only rappers like that can truly, without the exception of the J's and the like, that can make music that you may not relate to directly. Like, I cannot relate to anything that has ever happened in Compton, like ever. And like, but Kendrick's album is one of the strongest bodies of work in recent memory. And he just creates stories that are so vivid, and you just feel like you're a part of it. And although Drake's stories may not be as vivid and as deep, the content is still relatable. Like, even if you haven't just gone through a breakup, you can still understand the feelings that are going through his mind on like Connect, right? Yeah. So like, you can understand what he's going through during that time as he's singing about that, like trying over and over with a girl and it just never works. Like, you can relate to that even if you haven't been through it, because you understand the emotion that came into that record. And that's a really rare and important quality. And I think that's part of what has made him as successful as he is.
I think with any of these rappers, you know, you talk about Kendrick, you talk about Drake, you talk about J. Cole. I think it's a truth. Even if you haven't lived the truth, like even started from the bottom, I love that. I love the video because it's like kids playing soccer. Yeah. You know, and he's like, you know, because that was his bottom. Yeah. You know, friend. And I was at work with people arguing like, what? Man, what bottom is that? It's like, that's his bottom.
Right.
Yeah, that's his bottom. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. So even with Kendrick, you know, I know you were saying, talking about the beef. I'm a little disappointed in Kendrick from a standpoint where before he had this big break, and Drake has done this for so many other like new school artists, he gave him a break with Buried Alive.
He did. He gave him a record on his album.
Yeah, it's like
on a platinum
here you go.
He also brought him on tour, right, during that same time. So in a sense, if you were to look at this, like the class system, I feel like Drake sunned Kendrick through Buried Alive.
Yeah. I feel like we all in hip hop or whatever, like when someone doesn't extend their hand out to you, it's like, oh, that dude is fronting on me, or whatever, right? But then you have somebody like Drake. He extended his hand out. Listen to Buried Alive. He extended his hand out to Kendrick. He gave him this platform on one of his biggest albums, and then a couple years later, you get hot, and then you put my name in the verse, and it's just like, dog. Like, but I extended my hand, but this is why people don't extend their hand.
Right. He's in the middle of like, I'm better than all these new guys, and I'm more popular than all these new guys, but I'm not quite Jay.
It's like JV to Varsity, you know what I'm saying?
But he's not. He's like a swinger right now.
Yeah,
like,
he's
a guy that's like starting on JV, but he's like riding the bench on Varsity. Like, he's right there, and he knows it, and he knows that he's like the one that can get to the next level.
He's holding the Jewish torch. He's holding the Canadian torch. Like, he's not repping a city. He's repping a country. Like, dude, how old is he? Is he like 26?
Yeah.
He just got this job with the Toronto Raptors.
I saw that. That's
like, he's ambassador. So he has like the Canadian torch. He has the Jewish torch. He has the middle class suburban torch. Like, he
that's where the money is.
All of those kids like, yo, that's my Bible. I play soccer.
Right.
You know, I play soccer. I know a Jewish kid. I'm from Canada. Like, he has a lot of torches that he's holding, and he's dope.
So do we think that this is the album that is like, all right, Drake is there now, and like you were saying, like now he's in the door, what are we going to expect next? Or is there still more that he has to prove to get to the I'm now fully here?
I want one more. I want one more, like,
I agree.
And with rapping.
I think he's on the doorstep now.
Yeah,
we're having this conversation, and we would not have that for Take Care.
No.
2 years ago, we would not have had this conversation.
I think Take Care was that escalator up, and now
to the elite of that.
This is up there, but you got to prove yourself to stay up there.
Yes,
if you want to keep that longevity, like
Jay-Z,
Eminem, you got to keep that longevity and that consistency. So I think the next album will be, or the next project, whatever he does, will be that like step in the ground that will be like, all right, I'm like up here, staying here. I'm like trying to interact with the elite for real.
I think he's there. I think, you know, worldwide people, he's there. The album is great. I just think, from a hip-hop standpoint and hip-hop culture, for people to really like say he doesn't have that hip-hop classic album yet, but he does have great albums and
he does have classic. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, he's definitely one of the next, if not the next, to get to that next level.